theme of soulmates, and specifically we're going to do a clearing to clear out heartbreak. I'm getting distracted because I have two cameras here and I'm not sure where to look. Okay, so I want to talk for a moment about soulmates. So we have different soulmates. Some of our soulmates are compatible and some are not compatible. A soulmate is really somebody that you have known from a different time and place, that you have a really deep soul connection with. Hi Elizabeth, hi Nicole, welcome everybody. Let me know where you're all joining me from. So as I said, we have different soulmates, and some soulmates we're compatible with, but others we're not compatible with. And we're going to be drawn to a person, whether they're our soulmate or not, based on the energy that we're carrying, based on the beliefs that we're carrying. Basically, it's based on the frequency that we are emitting. So we're going to be attracted to them and they're going to be attracted to us. So a lot of you may be finding that you're having difficulty finding a compatible person for you. So I want to talk a little bit about that. So here's the first thing that you can do if you want to find a compatible soulmate. Take a pen and paper and start to list all of the things that you would like to have in a soulmate. All of the qualities. So this is probably going to be a long list. So does anybody have any ideas? Hi Dasha. Does anybody have any ideas? Let me know. It can be things like loyalty, being faithful, kind, genuine, generous, okay? It can be many things. I'm curious to know for you what they are for you. You have a long list. Okay, what are the qualities that you're looking for, Nicole? Hi, Faiza, welcome. So the first thing is write your list, write down the qualities that you would like in that person. And then the next step is to look at the qualities and the energies that I'm looking for in that person. Am I embodying that? And if you're not, then you have to work on changing your energy, work on embodying that, work on clearing out the blockages. So some comments here I'm just going to read: to be authentic, to be trustworthy, to be consistent, loving and kind. So I just want to say something on this idea of loving in a moment. So another comment from Mags. Hi Mags, I've been trying to embody the qualities I wish to have in another. Okay, great. So hi Han, welcome everybody. So okay, we often look for someone who can love us, okay? But we're unable to fully love ourselves. And if we are tuning into somebody on the same frequency, that means there's a high chance that they can't love themselves and fully love you. So part of what is required is to look at, okay, where are the places that I feel like I can't love myself? Some of them may be very hidden in your unconscious mind, so bear that in mind. You know, let's take another example. I'm going to use being faithful as one, being untrustworthy. This is a common thing that people have an issue with when they're attracted to people or bringing someone in. How many of you can identify with that? Loyal, trustworthy, and truthful is another one, okay? So, so I'm going to come back to that in a moment. But looking at those qualities, even loyalty, trustworthy, and being faithful, if you are attracting people who are not like that, here's what you can do. It could be related to your own past, where you have had patterns of not being able to be loyal, not being able to be trustworthy, not being able to be monogamous. You know, if that's there's, you know, look at it from the place of having no judgment. You're just looking at it as information. It may not even be related to you. You may have those patterns because you've absorbed them, you've witnessed them in your past, and or they are on your ancestral lineage. Those patterns need to be cleared out in order for you to actually really bring in the type of person who is embodying those qualities. So that's just something that I wanted to share with you, The first step is looking at what is it you want in a soulmate, writing down the qualities, and are you embodying those? Are there patterns associated with your past, your childhood, and or your ancestral line where there are conflictual patterns, belief systems, and energies that you have adopted, you're carrying, or you've absorbed that are conflictual to that, and then they need to be released. So one of the topics that I wanted to talk about is hidden heartbreak and how we can be held captive to that. So I'm curious to know, for you, what does heartbreak mean to you? And in what ways have you experienced it? We're speaking about a soulmate. Someone is asking what we're talking about. Okay, so what does heartbreak mean to you? And what are some of the ways that you have experienced it? Sorrow, okay? What else? So if I were to put it into a nutshell, I would say heartbreak is deep, intense, emotional pain or stress that we can experience. And we can experience it in different ways. So looking at some of your comments, through breakups and cheating, and they are two of the three common things that I was actually going to name in terms of the way that we can experience it in relationship. So it can be betrayal, where someone has cheated on you, being disloyal to you in some way. Now, being disloyal and cheating doesn't even necessarily have to be that they have had sexual interaction with someone else. It can be emotional betrayal. Okay, and this is a common thing that can happen, and people can have this where they're unable to fully commit to a person. They still have entanglements with their past relationships, family entanglements, so they're not fully able to commit, and there can be a betrayal in that way. So it can come in different ways. So it's betrayal, cheating, in terms of heartbreak. Let me see what I put on my list. It can be where a relationship has ended and you haven't wanted it to end, or perhaps you even ended it, but looking back at it, you feel regret. You wish you hadn't done it. So for the rest of you, what else does heartbreak mean to you? So we've got disrespect and pain. So now what I'd like you to do is identify one way that you have had your heart broken. When was that? You know, sometimes it's very buried because we suppress it. You know, if you've experienced some kind of heartbreak and you haven't fully processed it, it is going to get buried in your unconscious mind. It has to actually be processed and addressed. What does that do? When we don't address it, it builds a heart wall. And that heart wall does not allow us to allow love in. So that might be a blockage to having a soulmate come in, because you can't allow yourself to fully love. Or it may be a blockage in your current relationship. So I'd like to know, what way have you experienced heartbreak, if you can write it in for me. And based on that heartbreak, what might you have concluded about love, relationships, and yourself? So I'm going to wait for your comments. And in the meantime, I'm going to start to bring in some downloads and do some clearing. So if you'd like to receive them, all you have to do is say yes or have the intention to do so. So first of all, can we identify and start to remove any hidden heartbreak and show you that you know how to identify it, that you know how to process it, and start to clear it out, and actually bring in the feeling and the knowing of feeling safe to actually heal it, to let it go, to resolve it. And let's cancel, resolve, dissolve, choose which is you, everything in the way of that, from the source point, on all levels of your being, AWS precisely. You know, sometimes we have reasons to hold on to that heartache, and they may be conscious, they may be unconscious, and then we don't let it go. So then if there was a perceived value in holding on to that, If you imagine that heartbreak was your friend, what would it be doing for you? Let me know. So some of the comments then is, a couple of people have said disrespect and abuse. Okay. Okay. So tell me more about that. Always insecure, I'll be cheated on in love, abandoned and hurt. Okay. Hi, Carol. Heartbreak is having no support during difficult moments or not being able to count on someone. So how many of you actually feel that you can count on someone when you're in a relationship? And if you can't, why not? What does that look like, not being able to count on them? Okay, so always insecure that I'll be cheated on. Okay. And has that happened before? And if it has, what did you decide or conclude? Okay, another comment. I experienced heartbreak in the present, ex-spouse, daughter creating pain, disrespect over the past months. Don't understand why. Childhood heartbreak with mother walking over my feelings. Okay. So it's shown up in different ways. So how has that affected you? Okay, so I'm going to start the clearing. So here's the first thing I'm going to bring in. I'm going to bring in a new template of what it is to have a relationship that is consistent, that is honest, that you can trust the person, that you can count on the person. So we're going to bring in a new foundational structure, because we have foundational structures that are placed in us in our very early years. When we're little, we come into the world, or even when we're born, we come into the world and we're constantly downloading information from our environment. We learn what love is based on what we see and based on what we experience. So on that note, what did you learn love was? Because some of you may not actually know the feeling of what true love is, so because you have this structure which is in your unconscious mind. It's a foundation, and the way that I'm perceiving it is it's got like an energy which is like a rotting energy. It's not helpful. It's not full of vitality and life force. So we want to start to clear that out. But there's different components that make up that structure, and they are the different beliefs, the different experiences, and they're tangled up with old memories. So first of all, we're going to bring in the understanding of what a healthy structure is, so that you have that as a reference point. Because part of a reason that we keep finding ourselves in the same types of situations is number one, we don't have a healthy structure, and number two, we don't actually believe we deserve more than that. And that can be an unconscious belief. So if you know how to muscle test, you can muscle test that in your own way, and let me know what comes through. So I'm undeserving of love. However you'd like to say that, let me know what comes through. So we're going to bring in that new template. And all of the old unhealthy references that you have in regards to love and relationships, we're going to bring in truth on that. The reason we're going to bring in truth is we're bringing in source's truth and source's perspective. What that does is it gives you clarity on the individual situations, because based on the things that we experience, we see, we interpret that. We make a lot of interpretations about what that means for relationships and love and us in relationships, and it actually becomes part of a defined role that we have in relationships. How many of you had a specific role? Some of you may have had more than one in your childhood, which now you find in some way plays out in your relationships. Let me know. So we're going to bring that through, and we're going to start to let go of those roles. We're going to cancel, resolve, dissolve, transform, choose, view it from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS precisely. Cancel, resolve, dissolve, transform, choose, view it from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS precisely. So then, for those of you who have experienced betrayal through cheating in some other way, if I were to ask you to close your eyes for a moment and ask your unconscious the question, where does that seed of betrayal come from? Because there's an original seed that was placed into you that is the origin of the pattern of betrayal in your life. That can manifest as betrayal in relationships, but also betraying yourself. Because what we also have to look at is, where am I betraying myself? You know, self-betrayal can come in the form of, you know, not listening to yourself or tolerating abuse in relationships, being mistreated. So let's just bring in sources, truth, and perspective of where the seed comes from. And do ask the question and let me know. And let's start to show you that you can recognize and identify the ways in which you have experienced betrayal, that it's safe for you to do that. And also you can recognize where you're betraying yourself, and that you know how to break that cycle and that pattern. And let's just release everything else. Let's cancel, resolve, dissolve. Choose 420 from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS precisely. So someone is saying my father. So I need a bit more information on this, please. So where did the seed of betrayal come from? How many of you had parents where you witnessed betrayal happening in some way? Or you had someone significant in your life? Or there was cheating in their relationship? And if so, what message did that send you about relationships? About the opposite sex? About the opposite sex? About the same sex? What's the messages that sent you? So first of all, while I wait for those comments, I'm going to ask that we identify all forms of cheating that you have experienced. And I'm going to ask that we bring in the correct frequency and energy to start to melt that away, to start to dissolve that, and show you that you can release it and how to release it. Some of you are holding on to it because it's helping you in some way, or you believe it's helping you. So let's just bring that through first of all. And let's just dissolve everything that can go. Let's cancel, resolve, dissolve. Trace what you did from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS precisely. So looking at some comments, competing for his attention, feeling neglected, abandoned, and ignored. Okay? And then what did that do to you inside? Let me know. And then how many of you have had something like that and you find yourself in a relationship where you're competing for their attention, or you find that they have someone else and you're competing? Because a lot of the things that occur in our adulthood, there's some kind of replay of the past. Number one, because it feels familiar. Number two, we may not have other reference points. Number three, we may not believe we deserve more. And number four, on a higher level, our higher self is actually trying to take us out of that. Because sometimes what happens is when you are in some kind of relationship dynamic where there is constant betrayal, you get to a point when you're like, I'm done. And you won't accept it anymore. And you might start to work on your self-worth. But sometimes what happens is just on an unconscious level, you're like, I'm done. I don't want to have a relationship. So there is this desire within you, which can be on a spiritual level, to have this relationship. And maybe you know that that exists. But then on an unconscious level, there is all of these conflictual programs that say relationships don't work. They're full of pain. They're toxic. They're full of betrayal. And you actually believe on some level that you're going to lose if you have a relationship. So again, if you know how to muscle test, I believe I'm going to lose if I have a relationship, or I lose in relationships. And what is it that you think you're going to lose? Looking at your comments here. Okay. So it created heartbreak, not to trust anyone, and to avoid relationships. Right. So how many of you are actually unconsciously avoiding relationships? And what's the best thing about that? So what do you think you're going to gain? Or what do you lose if you have the relationship? You lose the person and their love. So there's an expectation that you're going to lose them before you even have them. So if you're going to lose them, you believe you're going to lose them, what might you have decided about having relationships? And how many of you have an unconscious vow to be alone because it feels safer. So then the idea is, if I'm alone, it protects me from pain. It protects me from the pain of heartbreak. But in reality, what's happening is you're seeing, feeling, experiencing on a subconscious level and potentially on a conscious level through the past heartbreak. But when you let go of that heartbreak, you're able to see, feel, perceive, and experience something else. So it's like you're in this trap. If that makes sense. Does it make sense? So let's show you how to come out of the trap. Let's identify all of the times where you experienced betrayal through cheating, through rejection, neglect, abandonment associated with anybody and also your parents. And let's just bring in light, truth, and clarity into those situations. And let's start to let go of any darkness. Let's clear out the darkness from the memories and let's let that go. Let's cancel it, resolve, dissolve, truth, what you see from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS precisely. It's interesting because I'm seeing these energetic type of anchors that is keeping you anchored in past heartbreak, past memories which were not positive. So let's just identify everything that keeps those anchors in place and let's let that go. Show you that you recognize what is actually over, what is in the past, that you can feel safe and secure stepping into the present without needing to be stuck in past pain, heartbreak, betrayal, and suffering. And let's let all of that go. Let's cut the result as arteries. What you see from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS. I see. It's interesting because I'm seeing a negative energy here associated with suffering, and it looks like it's coming from, I'm seeing two places actually. One is past partners, and then the other is someone in the family, and it looks like a grandmother. So it's a negative intent to suffer. And whoever has this, you've took this on and it keeps you in the cycle of suffering. So can we show you how to let that go? And can we remove all energies in you that caused you to vibrationally accept that? Could we remove all unconscious permissions and send healing to where it needs to go and let go of everything else? Let's cancel, resolve, dissolve. Choose what you do from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS precisely. Cancel, resolve, dissolve, choose what you do from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS precisely. So can we bring in clarity and truth on the belief that being alone protects you from heartbreak, protects you from pain, and show you that you can identify and resolve, and how to resolve the hidden heartbreak that is keeping you captive and not allowing you to have the soulmate connection that you would like to have. Because that's mostly what it's really about. It's about identifying and resolving the things within which you're projecting out. And when you resolve that and clear that, it's like the slate gets cleaned, and then it opens up a new fresh energy and a new fresh perspective. So let's show you how to do that. And let's let go of everything else. Let's cut and resolve, dissolve, choose what you do from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS precisely. So I have a question. What's the worst thing? Ask your unconscious mind this question. What is the worst thing that I believe or fear is going to happen if I let go of the heartbreak? And just tell me your first thought, feeling, or sensation. Because I'm seeing that vow is not ready to go yet. There is a fear about what will happen if you let go of it. So let me know. So I'm going to come back to that in a sec. So earlier I was asking, what is it that you believe you're going to lose if you have the relationship? Someone says, I lose love and attention. That part I'm not fully understanding. Could you tell me a little bit more about that? Your life will be empty with the relationship. Is that what you're saying, Leah? I'm wanting to know, what do you believe you lose if you have the relationship? What's it protecting you from? So how many of you think I'm going to lose freedom? Freedom, someone just said it. Okay, so what does that look like? Losing your freedom. Someone else is saying, I attract the same type of partners. Okay, so if there was a value in attracting those type of partners, or you have an attraction to it, what is it? And I'm going to show you that you can identify that. I'm going to help your conscious mind be able to identify that through giving you a download. And let's let go of everything else. Let's cancel results, which is you from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS precisely. Okay, interesting. So, okay, that's a little bit of a different answer, Leah. So the question was, if I have the relationship, what is it that I lose? You've said without pain and suffering, I'll be empty. And there's a vow there. Okay, why would you be empty on that note? Okay, coming back to this, there's a lot of control and there's no choice. I'm enslaved to men. How many of you have that belief system? I'm enslaved to men. What does that look like and where does that come from? Ask your unconscious mind to show you that. Where does that come from? Where did you first learn that template? That you lose control, that you have no choice, that you're enslaved to men, and let me know what comes through. And if you are enslaved to men, you lose freedom, you lose choice. Basically what you're saying is you lose yourself. What is the good thing about not having a relationship? Okay, Carol says, I lose my identity. Right, so you lose your identity. You lose yourself. Someone says, I put all my energy into them. Right? But why? What are you attracted to? Why are you attracted to the men that actually you're wanting to let go of? There is some kind of attraction there. So you obey your father, and that's the only way to operate because he's your support or provider. Okay. And if you do not obey, what may have happened back there? Okay. Let me know. You know, it may not be your father for some of you. It could be your mother. It could be another significant, okay, person. So the response here is, I get bullied and I get abused. Okay. So then the compliance, which is part of, I need to obey, I feel enslaved. I have to allow them to control me. And there was another component to that. Control and, let's see. I'm losing the comments here. Okay. I have to allow them to control me. All of that is part of the compliance. The compliance was a way that you saved yourself. So you can muscle test if you want. I have to comply to save myself. This is not going to just be one belief. This is a collection of different experiences that has created this dynamic in relationships. What was the abuse that you would experience, and what was the bullying? What did it look like? Let me know. Okay, someone else saying accepting crumbs. Okay. And sexual demands. Tell me what that one's about. So Elizabeth is saying women have to do everything for men. So these are like the things that you've learned. These are the things that are being played out. But I think we need to go a little bit deeper and ask why. What happens if I say no more? I'm not going to tolerate this anymore. What's your worst fear? Let me know. Okay, so it's verbal abuse and you're isolated, okay? And when you're isolated, what happens? Okay, you can have fun, okay? Okay, so I'll be on the street. Okay, so then some of you may still have this belief, I'm dependent on my father. I'm dependent on my father for my life, and it's very possible that you have a traumatic bond with your father. So how many of you are actually confusing love with a trauma bond? You know, when we are in a situation where we're experiencing abuse, often the way that we survive is we create this intense bond and attachment to the person who's being abusive towards us, and it can feel like love. And within that, what happens is you often learn how to feel their feelings, anticipate what they're going to do. It's also that you can survive, and it's an attempt to thrive. But part of what happens is you center your whole world around them. And this is part of the template that you then bring into relationships. So can we bring in clarity so that you have true understanding of what true love is? Okay, so part of what I'm seeing now is a little bit of resistance coming up in the unconscious level, because there's a fear of seeing the ways that you really seeing and acknowledging the ways that you were mistreated and hurt. So if you resonate with that, let me know. So we're going to just show you that you understand what true love is. Separate true love from traumatic bonding, entanglement, control, domination, the sense of ownership, opening up all of your timelines for you and your ancestors and your bloodline. And we're going to just send in light, clarity, and truth. And release all confusion. Let's let that go. Let's cancel, resolve, dissolve. Choose for choose you from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS precisely. Clear all darkness, pain, suffering from those memories. Showing you how to get out of that it's safe for you to step out of that. Any internal prisons that were created in your mind, we're going to collapse all structures associated with that, showing you how to take yourself out of that, giving you the key to come out, giving you the key to your own freedom, to your own sovereignty, showing you what freedom is, and that you can have freedom, love, that you can love yourself, all parts of you that you learned were unlovable based on how you were treated, based on what was said, based on the verbal abuse. Can we identify everything that was instilled into you? Identify all implants, identify all feelings, thoughts, projections, manipulations, and deceptions. Because some of it is the person who's done this, it may not be about what they believe. It's a way to manipulate you into compliance so that they have control and power over you. So we're going to release all of that. We're going to cancel it, resolve, dissolve, choose voice, choose you from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS precisely. We're going to bring in clarity and truth and let go of everything else. Cancel, resolve, dissolve, choose voice, choose you from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS precisely. Bringing in freedom, love, power, free will, what that is, and that you own your own will, or you're in charge of your own will, showing you a healthy understanding of a relationship, what it is to be respected, to respect yourself, to receive respect, and that you deserve it and why you deserve it without being bonded through trauma, without holding on to fantasies about the relationship, which is something that just is not true. So all the ways that you are operating in any type of relationship from the space of fantasy, can we let that go? Can we cancel, resolve, dissolve, just what you do from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS precisely? I show you that you can see, know, and recognize the truth about the relationships that you've had and that you're in that are actually relevant to you, so you can see the relationship as it is, separate that from fantasy, and it's safe for you to see, and letting go of everything else. Let's cut a result is altruist, which is you from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS precisely, and showing that you can have all of those things without taking on the perspective, the view, the pain, the suffering of any person that you are traumatically bonded to, and letting that go. Cancel, resolve, desire, choose, which you from the source point on all levels of your being, AW. Precisely, because within that then, your wants and your needs get entangled with theirs, so you cannot discern, or at times you can't discern what you want or need. And then the other aspect is you just give that up, you sacrifice that to try to survive or thrive. So let's show you that you can thrive, what thriving is, that you can move forward without needing to hold on to fantasy bonds, without needing to sacrifice your wants, your needs, without needing to meet anyone's sexual demands. And let's let that go. Let's cut our result as altruist, which is you from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS precisely. We're just going to do a clearing now because there's a lot of density connected to those past memories that's just ready to go. Okay, so let's show you how to heal all the relevant wounds that you need to heal in order to step out of this. So anytime you feared for your life, through the trauma you were left alone, you experience deprivation, and that gets activated, which is part of the thing that motivates you to stay in dynamics that actually your highest self would not want. So let's bring in your highest self's understanding of what it actually wants for you in a relationship and your soulmate. Some of you will have a soulmate connection where you've actually made agreements to come in with a specific person to do certain things in your life path together, and others will have several different soulmates to choose from, and some may be compatible, others may not. Here's the thing, we actually have a compass, a spiritual compass that is tied to our higher self, which can guide us to the correct person, and the compass can be out of sync. And that can be for different reasons. So we're just going to clear out what can be cleared out there and bring in sources, truth, and understanding of your compass, how to use it, how to navigate it. This is going to probably need a bit more work is what I'm seeing, but we'll just ask for a clearing to clear what can be cleared and let go of everything else. Let's cast a resolve, dissolve, trace what you do from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS precisely. Cancel, resolve, dissolve. Choose what you do from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS precisely. So let's bring in that you know what it is to feel fulfilled inside of you, to feel happy inside of you, to feel complete inside of you, to feel joy, to generate joy from the inside, without needing to obey or comply or serve. That is because some of you have learned the way that I get some sense of joy or peace is if I actually follow the rules, comply, obey. Let's remove all of that and let's show you that you can generate that from inside. And let's just send the healing to your self-worth and show you how to increase your self-worth. All things that were said to you and done to you, placed on you, put in you, implanted into you, labels, words, through verbal abuse, through energetic abuse, through anything else, which you took on as true. Let's start to remove that. Let's show you what that is. Let's give you clarity on that and perspective, because that is something that has really worn away at some of your self-esteem, and that is part of what is at the core of why you're not attracting what it is that you want to have, because you don't have the confidence, the self-esteem. You have a faulty idea, perspective, and identity. So let's start to just send the healing there. Last question. What are you guys avoiding by not having the relationship that you desire? What are you avoiding by not having the relationship you desire? Hi, Anna. Hi, Sharuk. Let's show you that you can understand what you have to gain by having a relationship. Let's show you what healthy power is, and that you can have power, say, and choice whilst being in a relationship. The highest and best type of relationship for you. So I'm avoiding pain and trauma. So ask the question, what pain and trauma am I avoiding? Avoiding disappointment. What is the disappointment that I'm avoiding? Intimacy. Why am I avoiding intimacy? Let me know the answer to those questions, guys. I'm avoiding being abused, okay? Criticism, intimacy, vulnerability, and exposing myself. So there's a few things there, okay? Avoiding heartbreak, abandonment. Okay, why would you be abandoned in a relationship? So I'm going to go back to heartbreak for a moment. So the heartbreaks that you have experienced, some of you named some of those. We're going to do a general clearing, but probably some deeper work is probably going to be needed, because you may have a number of different heartbreaks. So one thing that you can do is write down the different heartbreaks you've experienced, 5 or 10 different things, okay? And start to work through each of those. So heartbreak, think of the heartbreak you've experienced and ask yourself the question, if it helped me to hold on to this, or it's actually taught me something, what has it taught me? So if you've been cheated on in a relationship, what is that teaching you? If there was some kind of wisdom that you were gaining from that, what would that wisdom be? Because you may hold on to the heartbreak and the pain and the betrayal because you want to choose something different going forward, but that keeps you in that trap of the heartbreak. Okay, another comment is, I'm avoiding sexual intimacy. Why? Can you let me know? I'll come back to that. Okay, so someone is saying it's teaching me to empower myself. It's taught me compassion. Okay, so to choose high quality relationships. Okay. Hi, Michelle. And some of you are still in the process of learning this, okay? So for example, Elizabeth, we can give you the download of empowerment and how to be empowered. But if you're still in these types of dynamics, there's something there that you need to access on a subconscious level, that you need to heal and clear. Part of it might be a deep, intense fear of being alone. So if that resonates with you, if that resonates with you, what does it mean to be alone? So if you were to say to your unconscious mind, what does it mean to be alone? Tell me your first feeling, thought, or sensation. Or another word for being alone that your subconscious associates with being alone. So to trust my intuition, to stand up for myself. Okay, so empowerment. All right, let's show you sources, understanding, and truth of the ways that you need to heal, what you need to resolve in order to come into an empowered state in yourself and in relationships. And let's just let go of everything else. Let's cancel, resolve, dissolve, switch you from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS precisely, bringing in that you can recognize any ways that you're disempowering yourself and that you know how to resolve that and let go of everything else. Let's cancel, resolve, dissolve, switch you from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS precisely. So one response to the fear of sexual intimacy is being dominated and controlled. So is there some kind of sexual trauma there? And if there is, and you're aware of it and you feel comfortable, pop it in the chat. Okay, so being alone means death. This is what you're associating it with. Okay, so now say to your unconscious mind, is there a memory, an image, or a feeling associated with that, which comes from where this stems? Alone is safe. Alone means being unwanted. Okay. So how many of you then experienced rejection, isolation, abandonment, whether it's physical, emotional, and then you have equated that to mean I am unwanted. And then that has become part of the core rejection and abandonment wound, which actually needs to be healed. So all the ways that you have experienced rejection and abandonment and you have internalized that, can we let that go? Can we cancel, resolve, dissolve, which is you from the source point on all levels of your being, AW? So you're going to have a lot of different interpretations and meanings based on that. So it can be, I'm unwanted because. So if you even ask yourself that question, to finish that sentence actually, I'm unwanted because, tell me your first thought. You're going to have a lot of meaning associated with it, a lot of stories that you've told yourself, which are probably not true, but you're still operating from that space. So let's let that go. Let's let go of all the stories that you've told yourself. Let's cancel, resolve, dissolve. Choose which is you from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS. I see all the meaning that you've told yourself about that, about why that happened. Let's let that go. Let's cancel, resolve, dissolve. Choose which is you from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS precisely. So all of the expectation for rejection based on past rejection, whether it was true, because sometimes it's a perception and sometimes it is true. So whether it was truth or perception, let's let that go. Whether it was your perception or truth, to your unconscious doesn't matter. It still causes pain. So let's start to let that go. Let's resolve, dissolve, choose which is you from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS precisely. So someone says, I'm unworthy of love. Okay. This is one of the core things as to why we don't attract the person that we want to have. It's a sense of not being worthy and deserving. So then it's like needing to go deeper. Why? And there can be like 5, 10 different reasons. All of those things need to really be resolved. So a comment is, I wasn't attracted to my spouse, so sexual intimacy was difficult. So why were you with him if you weren't attracted to him? I'm just curious to know about that. And then where does the domination and control come from? So, okay, someone is saying it's my mother's feelings. Okay, so can we release your mother's feelings associated with her trauma? Can we cancel, resolve, desire, which is you from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS precisely? And if you have similar feelings, can we show you that you can identify that, it's safe to, and that you can own that you can own it without re-experiencing pain, without re-experiencing trauma? Because a lot of the time we have such resistance to looking at our stuff. What is going on? You know, if you resist something, you probably really need to look at it. And the resistance is usually just because we don't want to be in pain. Nobody wants to be in pain. But I just had a thought there. Maybe some people do, but that's a whole other kettle of fish in regards to pain. Let me go back to what I was saying. So we avoid pain. Human beings, it's our natural tendency to avoid it. And I don't know how many of you have ever gone into a painful place. You know, something has happened and then a past pain was triggered from your past. That can be a little bit hard to get out of if you don't have tools. But when you have the right tools, you can actually resolve the pain in an easier way. So let's show you how to be able to address the pain and the things that you need to without the belief, the idea, and bring in a new template so you do not re-experience the trauma, and that you can resolve it from an objective space as an observer without experiencing the trauma. And let's release everything else that's cancelled, resolved, dissolved, switches you from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS precisely. Cancel, resolve, dissolve, switches you from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS precisely. So that makes you feel like you have to settle in relationships. And if so, why is that? Okay, so there's a lot of stuff coming up. I'm not going to get to go through everything. So I was saying, you know, why I'm unworthy because, or I'm unwanted because, and some of the responses are things like I'm not worthy of love, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not good enough. These are all the reasons that we carry that we're not allowing ourselves to have the relationship that we want. We can bring in feelings to support you to see that, but then we actually need to see, is there a program associated with that? So for example, this idea, I'm not pretty enough, let's bring in the feeling of being attractive and that you can see that you're attractive. Now, as I'm about to bring that feeling in, there's resistance coming up for some people because there's a feeling it's not safe to be attracted. So if you know why, let me know. I'm seeing for some people there's this idea, I'm going to be preyed on, I'm going to be harmed, I'm going to be hurt. So then these are all really good reasons to hold on to the illusion of I'm not attractive, to hold on to the idea that my body's not good enough, to hold on to excess weight, that type of stuff, okay? So then underneath that, there's something that needs to be resolved, that is activated. So let's show you truth and understanding on that. But let's bring in what it is to know that you can be attractive without being preyed on, without being abused, without being a target, without being a sexual target. Okay, so another thing that's just there, we're going to do a little bit of clearing on, is any type of sexual past abuse, which is a big topic, but we're just going to work on it a little bit here because we are going into it. So sexual abuse doesn't actually just need to be the physical, it can be energetic as well. So we're going to identify all forms of sexual abuse. And actually some of what is getting activated here is ancestral sexual abuse as well, and stuff from some of your parents. So first of all, can we show you that you recognize what is your own and what is theirs? What is, how to understand how this is affecting you and what to do about this and how to resolve it. And can we let go of everything else? Can we cancel, resolve, dissolve, what you do from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS precisely. So then as we go down the rabbit hole, I'm seeing a few more things. So here's what I'm seeing. Some of you are carrying some of your parents' split off trauma for different reasons. You're entangled with them. And it's also because they just didn't want to carry it. So being helpful, you decided you would carry it instead. So you can muscle test if you want. I'm carrying my mother's trauma. I'm carrying my father's trauma. Whatever it is you want to muscle test. And if that's a yes, ask yourself, okay, well, if I didn't carry it, what then? So if the mind believes there's a value in carrying it, what would it be? Okay, so all of the ways that you are entangled with their trauma, Can we cancel, resolve, dissolve, transform you zero from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS? So I see, and let's show you how to separate from the trauma, how to separate from the traumatic entanglements, and let go of everything else. Let's cancel, resolve, dissolve, transform you zero from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS, precisely. So then just, I'm being drawn back to this idea of sexual abuse, which can be where you actually did experience physical sexual abuse. That can be in the past, it can be in a relationship, but also what I'm seeing is it's energetic for some of you where you've had relationships with people who have had, let's say, dark thoughts, carrying dark energy, and that energy then is directed at you, and I'm seeing that it's having a shattering effect on the energy. Then there are these ties, sexual ties. The other thing is if you've had a relationship with someone like that, you haven't fully resolved it, what can happen is their energy can interfere with you bringing someone else in. So first of all, let's just identify emotional, psychic, astral, sexual abuse, and let's just start to resolve it. Let's bring in the truths, the understandings that you need to see, know, and perceive, and let it go. Let's cancel, resolve, dissolve. Choose what you do from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS, precisely. Let's bring in what sacred sexuality is. Let's bring in a new template for that. Let's clear out old references. Let's cancel, resolve, dissolve. Choose what you do from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS, precisely. There's like a lack of discernment as well. So I'm seeing some programs, infrastructure regarding sexuality, which you've been carrying and you've adopted, and then you are kind of magnetized towards someone who is carrying that as well. So let's see what to do about that. Okay, so then there's all of these distorted ideas about sex and sexuality. So we're just going to send in as much light in there and clearing as we can. And we're going to let go of all of that. We're going to cancel, resolve, dissolve, transform you from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS, precisely, and showing you what it is to have sacred, the idea, the template of sacred sexuality and sex, and that it's possible to have that, to embody that. And there's actually a lot of rejection of your sexuality is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing clamps on in certain areas of the reproductive system. So we're just going to remove the clamps and let those go. Let's cancel, resolve, dissolve, choose what you do from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS. Let's show you that you can have sexual boundaries, that you understand what your sexual boundaries are, and any default settings, structures, defenses, devices, spiritual components, which keeps you running on autopilot. Let's safely bring those down. Let's remove them, show you how to remove them, that it's safe to remove them. And let's start to cancel, resolve, dissolve, choose what you do from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS, precisely, and show you that it's possible for you to have your sexual choice respected, that you know what it is to be able to say no and have that respected without the feeling, or not the feeling, but the past reference points, without holding on to the past references of being controlled sexually, energetically from a sexual perspective, being dominated. And let's start to just separate those things out, clear out all the negative associations. Let's cancel, resolve, dissolve, choose what you do from the source point on all levels of your being, AWS, precisely. Okay. Okay, guys, how is everyone doing? So another interesting thing there, that there's a belief that some of you may have, which is I have to allow my parents or my mother or my father or some variation on that, to choose my partner. And that's actually an influence as well. Okay, guys, let me know how you're doing. You're welcome. All right, so the other thing I wanted to mention, light or good, is that I am running a course this weekend, and it is called Junior Love Compass, Magnetize Your Soulmate, or let me remember. I was going to say strengthen, but it should be deepen your love bonds. So this is for you, whether you're in a relationship or you're not, and it's about really deepening your level of self-love with yourself, preparing you for your soulmate, whether you're with them or not. So that means helping you get more confident, feeling a deeper level of self-love for your body, for yourself, feeling whole and complete. Because a lot of the time we go into relationship from the space of pain and suffering and feeling like we need this to be happy and we need this to complete us. But actually we need to clear those things on that list that I talked about earlier. So when we began, guys, I said, first step to bringing your soulmate is write a list. What are the qualities that you would like to have in a soulmate? Do you have those? Do you have conflictual patterns within you, whether they are your own, inherited, you've absorbed from your environment? If you do, you have to clear them, because all of that is contributing to the frequency that you are emitting, and you are going to attract and be attracted to someone who is on that frequency. So it's like a radio channel. You're tuned into a specific channel. So then if you ask yourself, well, what channel am I tuned in to? Okay, so for some of us, the channels that we're tuned in to is basically toxic FM, because there's all this toxicity from our past that hasn't been resolved. Okay, so then we attract someone who validates that belief, validates the belief that we're not lovable, who rejects us because we can't reject ourselves, or we can't love ourselves, sorry. So we have to clear out the junk to get ourselves ready, so then we're able to tune into a completely different channel. So that's what the core of this is about. It's about changing your frequency, clearing out those past things, up leveling your frequency, completing past relationships, cutting sexual ties. Cutting sexual ties and soul ties is not as simple as let's just cut the tie. It's not, because they come back. There's more in it to that, okay? When we have these soul ties intact and these old sexual connections, it can negatively influence us. So we're going to be looking at that. We're going to be looking at reclaiming your spiritual essence that has been lost in past relationships. We're going to be looking at clearing out that foundational structure that was put into you at a very young age, that has been added to based on the relationships you've had. Then bringing in a lot of positive energies so that we can bring in a new template, a new structure. So we're going to cover different things: past relationships, unhealthy patterns, clearing toxic love, upgrading your relationship with yourself, deepening your confidence, deepening your self-love, clearing the abandonment wound, rejection wound, and exercises so that you can actually bring in your compatible soulmate. And one key component is we're working on the love compass to get the love compass online, which, as I mentioned, if you weren't here earlier, this is a spiritual compass that is tied to your highest self, which navigates you in the correct direction. When this is out of sync or not working, then you end up attracted to people and vice versa, because it's not working and it's the wrong type of person, and they may be a soulmate who are just not compatible, or they may be just not a soulmate. So we're looking at that. But this course is also really relevant for you if you're in a relationship. A lot of time we go into a relationship turns out not to be what we thought, because we have all this programming in place. We have these fantasy ideas in place. So it can be from that perspective. It can be that you're actually with the right person, but things have just gone downhill since you've been in the relationship. It can be getting married, it can be having children, it can be interference from family, from in-laws. And when we have that interference, you know, if you go into a relationship with someone who are enmeshed with their family, and this might be even something that you have, you may be enmeshed with your family. So when we are enmeshed with our family, the family view themselves and are programmed by being in that family to have beliefs like, my mother is number one, my father is number one, you know, putting your parents on the pedestal. I have to allow my parents to choose my relationship for me. The family doesn't operate as individuals in the family. They operate more from the space of believing they're one person. Okay, so then that can look like, you know, no privacy. It's very difficult for you to separate from them to live your own life. So there's all these belief systems then that we have running. And if you're in that type of situation, when you try and have a relationship with someone else, you're often going to feel like you're doing something wrong. You're betraying them, and you can't fully be present in the relationship. When you're on the receiving end of that, it can be very difficult, because you can have, you know, in-laws competing with you for attention, love. There's a lot of control that's going on this level. But then on a psychic level, there's a whole other level of stuff, which can be, you know, psychic energetic attacks, that kind of stuff. So all of that depletes the relationship, but there's other elements as well. So this is a really good course to also just help you disentangle, get clear, and step out of that and up level the relationship. We do have much more influence than we realize. The other thing that you might want to look at, if you're attracting that type of thing, you might want to look at, do you actually have those beliefs within you?